So welcome to Scrapbook Live. I am Megan Jax. Today is Wednesday, February 7th. I always have to glance down at the calendar, even though I should know. And I have a fun project. It's a single page layout. It's based on a recent project from the Creative Memories blog. In fact, it just came out a couple weeks ago, just about a couple weeks ago. It is the original blog project uses the riveting collection. It kind of has that home improvement vibe to it. The border at the top has is designed to kind of look like fence posts or fencing, like a backyard fence, or it could be your front yard fence or whatever, a fence. So I the reason I chose this particular layout for this particular piece, I've had these photos that I wanted to use of Cody when we were playing Uno a couple weeks ago with him, and he was just making the silliest faces. He was so excited to have just these cards where he could just dump on his parents, so we were having to draw cards right and left, and so I captured these photos, but they're all horizontal, and so I had 4 or 5 of them that I wanted to use. And so this particular layout has 4 horizontal photos on it. And at the top, even though they use a fence, kind of that fence theme, because it's home improvement, there was going to be space up there for me to make some cardstock Uno cards. I've done it before for another layout, so I thought I could just make some of those, put them across the top, and go with that Uno theme that we've got going on. So before I jump too much further into this, let's go ahead, switch over here to my overhead cam, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so here you can see this layout I did a few years ago. I don't remember when I did it. It was based on a sketch from the Creative Memories. I don't know if it was a virtual crop or just another sketch, but this is my oldest son, but probably at least 4 years ago, and he has short hair. Now he has much longer hair. But my oldest son cannot shuffle anything to save his life. So we were playing Uno one time and we made him shuffle, and there was some swear words coming out of his mouth. It was hilarious. And so I just had this whole layout of him. Kevin can't shuffle, and he still can't to this day. It's pretty funny. But I had made these Uno cards at the top. So I knew I'd done it before, and I thought, well, I could do that again. So I had these really adorable photos of Cody with these expressions on his face playing Uno. I mean, he was laughing, and he was like getting ready to throw down these cards for his dad to have to draw a million cards. So I said, I want to use these photos, but they're all horizontal. So I liked that this particular blog project has that horizontal layout, which, it's great. It's perfect. I mean, it's nothing overly revolutionary. I mean, the fun of this particular layout is really up in the border itself. The photos are down in here. They're perfect. They're just great. And then you can have all sorts of fun creating a border that goes with your theme. And that's what they've done. So if you need those fence posts, they have all the directions in here. Step 5 tells you how to make those fence posts. That would be something great that you can do there. I am going to deviate a little bit. I'm going to keep some elements of this. I am definitely keeping, obviously, the photos and the arrangement. I do like those the little diagonal pieces that almost look like tape holding the photos down. They've got some torn pieces in here that we can use, and then they've got like a border at the top, like strips of paper. It's actually a sticker. Some of those elements I'm going to use, where they use fence posts, I am going to be making some Uno cards, and I've already got them started. Obviously, I don't need full cards. I just need tops. So I am going to be able to just do a few of these. So I'll show you how to make a couple of them. I want to make 2 more. I decided that I think I can use 5 of them across the top and have some good overlap. So with that in mind, since one of the things I always loved about this layout, it's one of my favorite layouts. I love the color. I was able to bring in a little bit of that rainbow paper. This is out of the Fresh Fusion rainbow pack that's several years old. And then I mix and matched in some other tonal papers that went with the whole vibe. I think I've got a matte out of one of the one of the Magic collections here. Another tonal paper out of the shades of black and white combo pack. I don't even know where some of these other papers are from. It's definitely one of those where you just reach in and you grab what you have that goes with your layout. So one of the things I wanted to do here, though, is I love the color scheme, and this will go in Kevin's book, and this layout's going to go in Cody's book. So I thought I could just use the same concept. with a black and gray theme, bringing in, I still had a little bit of this rainbow paper and then the Uno cards. So I am really letting an older layout that's a similar theme guide me in my new layout, even though I'm doing, it's inspiring the colors and so forth. So it was kind of easy on my brain. I basically pulled this layout out, said, what do I need to do that goes with the same vibe? And then I can go ahead and get started. So to do that, what I did is I went to my black and white paper folder. I have a project folder that's just full of black, white, gray paper, so that it's easy for me to find those colors, those neutral colors, because I use those a lot. So I have some black. This black kind of scratchy paper here is going to be my background paper. It's out, I'm pretty certain this was out of one of the totally tonal things that we've had. Again, here is that rainbow paper from the Rainbow Fresh Fusion Rainbow Pack. I don't know if any of you are like me, where I hoard this particular rainbow paper. Like I treat it like gold, right? What I've already cut some of it. I don't plan to cut anymore. I've already cut what I need. I'm not going to cut anymore. But I love this paper, and so it gets a special spot in my project folder to be able to use. And then again, coming with another more that gray tone. It's gray with some black dots, and it again is out of, I think, one of those totally tonal packs that we had maybe in 2022. For cardstock colors, I am going with, this is Scarlet, Buttercup, Kelly Green, and Blue. I also am using some black. Got to have that draw 4 card in there, because that's half the time, that's what sets this little guy off giggling when he gets to drop one of those cards. And then white. And the white is the backside of one of the cover sheets from the original, from the paper packs. So those are the things I'm working with. I did trim my photos down. I am using the photo sizes as listed on the layout. So they come down here into step 9 is where they talk about the photos, and they are 5.5 wide by 3.5 tall. You would need some mats. I cut my mats to the size listed in here. So they are 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 tall. And I just simply went with the 4 colors that match my Uno cards. So before we get going too far, I think I am going to go ahead and dive into making the Uno cards, because when we start putting this together, we kind of work from the top to the bottom according to the directions. They have you placing your sticker and some paper and your border, and then you come in with your photos. So with that in mind, I am going to go ahead and we'll dive into doing the Uno cards. That may or may not be something you need to do, so just bear with me a little bit. I only need to make 2 of them. It's a repetitive process, so if you do want to try making Uno cards, or maybe you want to give your hand at another type of card, if you do play some various card games, I did think about photocopying some Uno cards and then printing them off on either, I could have done some photo paper or cardstock to make them photo safe. That was an option, but since I'd already made the Uno cards before, I thought I would do it again. So to do the Uno cards, and again, I am only worried about the tops of them. So I'm really only planning to show about yay much of the card. I will get a sticker up here that will have the number at the top. So I started off with this, the card stock is, I believe, 3.5 inches wide. The cardstock is 3.5 inches wide, and however tall you need it to be. I do not have the directions for making a full Uno card. This is just tops. So if you need a full Uno card, you may have to play around with it a little bit more. We will be using this, I'm pretty certain is oval number 2. So it's the second smallest of the ovals out of the custom cutting system. You are going to also want to have your corner rounder. I'm going to go ahead and give a quick corner round to my black piece here. So I'm going to be making a draw 4 card. That's the intention with this one. What's nice about the draw 4 card is it has the number 4 up in the corner, so it's black with the number 4. We all recognize it. Regular wilds, I looked this up, so if you're wondering why I'm like this pseudo expert on it, I looked at the cards. The regular wild that is just where you just get to change the color has the tilted oval with the 4 colors in it. And that was going to be a little bit more challenging to make. So I said, I'm just going to go with the draw 4 because it has the +4 at the top and I can just use some stickers to make that. So once I've got this piece done, like it says, 3.5 inches wide. This piece is about 4 inches tall, but you can of course make it. I think I'll ultimately trim it down to about 3 inches tall using oval number 2. And you're just going to want to put that oval in tilted on the side. If you can find some reference points, like I've lined up the top edge of my my cardstock here with just one of the straight lines, just lined it up over on the side. And then you can you want to find that reference point where you put things, largely because you're going to want to be able to repeat the cuts. So, and you can use a previously cut piece to help you with that. If you want to, you make one, you can use it as a pattern to kind of help you place the other. We will use the green oval or the green blade first. And normally I am above this, so I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work. I think I need to be about right there. It's definitely tilted. The the oval is definitely tilted. And we'll go ahead with the green blade and then we'll use the red blade. So after you cut with the green blade, you're going to want to hold everything in place and then grab your red blade. So there's the first cut, and then here's the second cut, because we're just going to give ourselves that sliver that when we mount it to the white, and this white is 3 7/8 inches wide. When we mount it to the white, you can see that iconic swoosh going there, or the hint of that oval. So we'll repeat that again with the buttercup. I need the buttercup. And this is where I mentioned if you have one you've already cut, you can kind of use this second one to help give you some spacing. Grab my blade, and I'm just gonna put my blade on there and kind of lean to the side and determine do I have it spaced right. I'm a little low, so I'll bring it up. That should be good. They don't have to be 100% perfect. This piece, I do need to round those edges, so I'll grab my corner rounder again. And I have 2 white pieces. Again, the white pieces are 3 7/8 inches wide. Some of these I kind of cut like a square. Maybe I didn't. Originally when I cut these, I do, as I prepare for this Scrapbook Live, I'll do a lot of pre-cutting and measuring and making sure I've got everything the way I want it. This one didn't get trimmed down. I think I trimmed down 4 of them, but I need to trim down 5 white pieces. So I'm going to trim that down to 3 7/8 inches wide. And then I will come back in with the corner rounder and reestablish that rounded corner. I do see a comment that Kimberly is mentioning that we could also use that sliver, and you could use the sliver piece that you cut out to help you get that spacing if you need. So now I'm going to go ahead and attach these pieces. I've got my repositionable adhesive. You could use regular adhesive if you want. I am giving myself a little bit of that generous white. There is a generous white border on the outside edge of those cards. And just putting everything into place. And then I will have a total of 5 cards ready for my border. Once I get these pieces put on here, I will trim these down. I trimmed my other cards to 3 inches. They may have to be trimmed down further. I thought 3 inches was going to be fine to get me started. And once I have everything ready to go on the border, I will be able to, I can make any final adjustments. So if they need to be a little bit shorter, I can trim them up. Okay. The other item I want to do is, before we start really getting assembly done, is I'll wait because I don't know the order. I was going to put my photos on my mats, but I know kind of what order I want my my mats to be, but I haven't quite figured out where I'm going to do my, my photo. So we'll wait. I will come back to that in a second. Put my Uno cards to the top, my mats to the top, and my photos. I'm going to grab my background paper, which I told you was going to be this tonal black paper. I'm going to give it a quick adhering it to my base, my mat. Just use a little bit of repo on the back, and that's going to just help it stay in place so it doesn't wobble around too much. I didn't put enough adhesive on. There we go. Okay, so I mentioned I wanted to use this really fun rainbow paper because it's just so pretty. So I am going to use that at the top of the layout where you see the caution stripe or the warning stripe. I'm going to put that at the top here. Next up, they want us to use a couple different pieces of paper here. They have another lighter strip that they used for some journaling. You can see, so they have the journaling, just a line of journaling that goes across the top edge. I'm not so particularly worried about doing that element. I did like this kind of a medium gray polka dot that I was going to bring in. And I don't think I'm going to worry about going with the lighter. They use a kind of a lighter color there. But I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is just bring where they talk about, they use a 1/2 inch of the crinkle paper, which is that a lighter whitish color paper for the journaling line there. And then they come in with 3 inches of the blue cardstock that actually goes behind their fence posts. I am just going to go ahead and come in with kind of I'll probably actually just cut a 3.5 inch strip of this. So that will be what sits totally behind my cards. A good portion of it will be covered up by my cards. With the fence posts, you see a lot more between them. My cards are going to overlap in a fashion where you're not actually going to see a lot of the paper behind it. You'll see the paper at the top, and of course, you'll see this torn paper over the front. But for the most part, you're not going to see, when I start putting these cards down, they may veer off the edge a little bit. We're going to see kind of what's at the top. In fact, I don't think I'm going to have to use that full. See how there's nothing showing through. So I can probably come in and just cut myself. I'm going to probably cut, instead of a 3.5 inch strip, I am probably just going to cut, it looks like I will probably be able to do just a 1 inch. If I get my ruler out, I think a 1 inch is going to be plenty. So I'm going to cut a 1 inch strip of this gray polka dot paper. So come in here 1 inch. The reason I didn't want to go two-toned with this is, like I mentioned, I'm not so worried about having the journal line up there. The one thing is I could always come back and add a lighter strip of paper if I wanted to add some journaling in here too. That is something that could be added. I would just want to make sure to give myself some space above those cards if I would want to add it. But now that we have some of that, we have those sticker strips that are the journaling sticker strips, I could just add those really anywhere on the layout, right? So I'm not too concerned about that. The other thing I also wanted to do is, even though they use a different color paper down here, they come in with that green plaid that has that torn element to it. I am going to actually use this dark gray paper. So we're going to have the dark gray, the gray polka dot paper in the back. And then we put our cards on here. They'll kind of, overlap a little bit. We'll get this all figured out. that the torn gray paper will sit over it. So it's going to be kind of that, it'll have a torn edge here. So it's just kind of cohesive between the two. I've got a lot going on with my rainbow pattern at the top. I didn't want to have to pick a specific color to make this work. And I just was fine doing it with the, this tonal gray color. So to do that, I'm going to grab, I have another cutting mat. I'm going to use the the most recent tearing tool that we have, and I'm going to go ahead and tear. Now, what I want is I'm going to give myself an inch. I think they do say they want you to actually cut two or to tear two pieces, but, and they want them to be about 3/4 of an inch tall. It's easy when you tear two pieces. It's easy to get two pieces when you use the tearing tool because you're going to get one piece here and then you cut with your trimmer to get the second piece. It's not like you have to tear twice. You really only tear once, but you use both sides of both. You know, when you tear it apart, you have two torn edge. I am not sure that I'm going to worry super much about using two pieces. I might just use one, or maybe I will use the back side. It's a pretty tonal. I could use two different sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best to do 3/4 of an inch. I am using the a little more, not quite so many dips in it. It's a little bit more just rough as compared to, I think this was the Dunes side. I cannot remember the name. Yeah, it was called Dips and Dunes. So maybe this is the dips and this is the dunes. It was the Dips and Dunes tearing tool was available, I think, as a promotional item. So I am lining this up at 3/4 of an inch. I'm going to come in here and tear the paper. Keeping good pressure on my tearing tool. Now, the one thing, you could use a regular ruler to tear. You could use you could use a trimmer with a decorative blade. It's going to give you just a kind of a decorative element. You could just tear freehand, however you want to do it. But I have a tearing tool. I don't use it probably as much as I could, so I'll definitely give it some use today. And then I'll go ahead and cut the second piece at 3/4 of an inch, and that should give me my two pieces that are 3/4 of an inch. And if I want to see how I'll be able, I could come in, and I actually think I'm going to like that. Come in with that second layer to it and just gives a little bit of detail there. So get some of this out of the way and we'll come back. And I think I'm going to start adhering some pieces down. One of the things I need to do is I'm trying to keep an eye on, well, before I actually adhere, let's finish dry fitting everything because I have to make my 4 photos work here at the bottom. So before I start figuring out for sure how tall this border is, and in all reality, it should be, you know, no more than 3 inches. I need to make sure I can get my photos where I want them to be. So I know that red and yellow need to be opposite each other. So here we go. Here's where my photos need to be. So I'm starting to see where the bottom line to my border is. And it looks like I want my bottom line of my border to come down and be, well, I could come down to 4 inches, which is probably about what they actually have in this overall layout, is maybe about 4 inches top edge of the paper. But I think I'm going to come down to 3 3/4. So 3 3/4 is where I want the bottom edge of my layout to be. So I am going to need to come in and trim off some of my cards, and I'm going to bring up my cards. Let me grab my ruler. I'm going to bring up my cards, I think, by about 1/2 of an inch. I'm going to trim my cards. All right, so my cards, I had trimmed them to 4 inches, or excuse me, to 3 inches. I'm going to go ahead and bring them up to 2 1/2. Actually, what I think I will do is I'm going to actually just bring them up to the measurement that they had for those fence posts. I'm a little worried. I don't want to cut them too short. That would be kind of disastrous and really frustrating. So the fence posts, they had you cut those fence posts or the pieces of paper to make the fence posts at 2 3/4 inch tall. So I think that's what I'm going to do with my my Uno cards is I will go ahead and bring those up to 2 3/4 inch tall. And then that should mimic a similar spacing or for the overall border itself. So if you are making a decorative element, whether you're using the fence posts, if you are doing some other thing, that 2 3/4 inches might be a good height to just reference. One of the layouts, one of the things I did think about, I don't know how many of you have ever used like the Color Street nails, the nail wraps, I think is what they're called, or other brands of those. These, I will admit, that's what these kind of make me think about a little bit. Like, so you totally use a corner rounder and round out the whole side. And maybe if you have a nail party or, you know, just going to get your nails done, it might be kind of fun to a little theme there to do. So like I said, I'm taking down these cards from 3 inches to 2 3/4. And now I think I am ready to start doing adhering some pieces. So we will start at the top. Like I said, the directions actually have you building this from the top down. So we're going to go ahead and put our, where they use a caution strip sticker, I am using a strip of paper from the Fresh Fusion Rainbow collection. And my piece of paper here is about 3/8 of an inch tall. So 3/8 of an inch. That was just a guess on the size that they used. I would go probably no more than a 1/2 inch if you're cutting your piece of paper. That's the only thing when Creative Memories uses a specific collection and they use specific like stickers, they don't always give us that reference measurement. So you kind of have to guess a little bit. But that's the nice part. It's all can just be done however it works for you. That's why dry fitting can be really important, so you can see how everything fits together. Next up, I am going to put the gray strip in. This gray strip I'm pretty certain, didn't I cut this to 1 inch? Yeah, it's 1 inch. And it goes just below that rainbow strip at the top. And it serves as a little bit of a background for those playing cards. So now my playing cards come on here. So one of the things I know, I do not want black to be on the outside edge. I want black to have, to be in the, not on the outside edge. I want yellow to also be kind of in the middle. I feel kind of sometimes with the yellow, it is kind of nice to just keep it in with colors. I want blue and then green. So I think this is the order which I want to do. I could stagger my cards a little bit so that the tops of them are not flush across. It gives a little bit of dimension. Think about more when you're holding the cards, what they kind of look like. I do want to make sure I don't know. I'm trying to imagine. I think I will let my edges completely come over. I am going to take a peek when I made these cards. And the reason I'm taking a peek at the last time, I want to see where I did my number placement. I do not want to have my number right next to a cut off piece here. So I want to make sure that I'm giving myself, when I put my number on here, that I'm not going to be slicing too close to that number on the edge. So it looks like it should be okay if I go kind of like that. I'm looking for some evenness to the overlap, that the cards look kind of even. And I think they do look good. Double checking. I mentioned before that I didn't really want to come down any lower than 3 3/4 from the top of my page. So I am looking here to make sure that my cards are not falling below that 3 3/4. And here I can put my ruler. There's 3 3/4 inches. So there's where my cards can sit. They have to sit above that. If I want to bring them all the way down, like the bottom edge of some of them to 3 3/4, I could, giving myself a little bit more of that paper showing at the top. But I just want to make sure that they don't dip below that, so that when I put that other my gray pieces along the bottom, it just kind of covers it all up. So that looks pretty good. So let me go ahead, grab some adhesive and start putting these into place. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on them so that I can wiggle them around a little bit. One thing that you might want to do, and if I wanted to take a little more time, I probably could do it, is maybe come in with a black marker and ink that edge. That would just give a little bit more dimension between the cards as they overlap each other. In person, you can see a little bit more of the shadow. I'm sure it doesn't come across very well on the video to see where they overlap. Now I have a feeling on my red card, I'm gonna have to, and I may have to come back in and figure this out. Normally somewhere in here, we'd start to see the numbers on the cards themselves. So here, my cards overlap, my photos overlap the cards. So I didn't have to worry about the actual numbers down here. I might need to here, might see about placing some of these a little bit higher, and then I don't have to worry about it. See how I can use that to maybe cover up a little bit more of the where the spacing, where that number is on the card face. I don't mind the card corner. I know I can do those easy with my stickers. I really didn't want to have to try to do any of the middle of the card decoration. So I think that's cheating up a little bit. I wanted to have check my spacing again. I need to be at 3/4 of an inch, or excuse me, 3 3/4. I need to bump some of these up just a little bit. The red can come off a little bit more over here because I won't have anything over here. I'm going to have a number here, but if I slice off a little bit more over here, I think it'll be okay. All right, so there's my spacing for my cards. Next up, I want to go ahead and I'm going to add my first layer. But I think what I'm going to do before I add this to my layout, I think what I will do is actually get these two torn pieces layered on top of each other. So I'll come down here to my silicone mat and I will go ahead and create these pieces together as one. And then I can take them up and put them in place together. So I will use a little bit of Repo adhesive on the back side of this piece. I think the original layout, they were not super concerned with making sure that the sides were even. They probably maybe they hand tore those pieces, but you can definitely see here in the original layout that we're kind of wide on this side with the color, and it narrows down as you get over here to the right hand side. And so it doesn't have to be even. Since I use a tearing tool, I do have a little bit more of a straight edge maybe than you would have if you hand tore it. I am using my cutting mat here to kind of line things up. And it would be helpful if I lined it up a little bit better. I didn't quite. There we go. All right, so then I'll go ahead and put some adhesive on the back side of this to hold everything into place. Come back up here to my layout. I am going to go ahead and put my ruler where I want it to be because I want this bottom edge to be straight for sure. Well, I don't even need, I could just go edge to edge. There we go. So I've got that border put in place. So now what I'm gonna do is gonna go ahead, I don't have to do it right now, but I will need to come in and trim up the sides of my layout here. But let's go ahead and get my photos put into place. I can actually adhere my mats where I want them to go, and then I can put my photos on. Since my mats are different colors, I do want my mats to be very specific. And let me talk to you about how I am doing the mats. So one of the things to make those pieces, they look like maybe tape or little braces that hold the photos into place. You can see them in the corners of the original layout. They used they pulled down this pattern from the top, pulling it down to the bottom of the rest of the layout, which is a nice technique to do, to bring that pattern from the top, bring it down here. They did so in those tape type pieces. So I cut this strip, I cut another 3/8 inch wide strip of the rainbow paper, and I cut it into 3-inch segments. So I had 4 3-inch segments. When you do that though, you definitely get, you get cool patterns, like cool colors, the blues, the greens, and the purples, and then you get warm colors, the reds, the pinks, and then a little bit into the starting of the greens, where the greens are a little bit warmer. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure my warm colors are opposite each other. My warm cardstock colors are opposite each other. And to keep that rainbow vibe going, I'm going to pair my cool colors with my warm cardstock. So my reds and my yellows here, and then I will come over here with the blue and the green, and I'll use the warmer colors, the warmer parts of those on the cool cardstock. And that way they're opposite each other. So even though I am not using I'm not using they're keeping the opposite each other. I do see a question from Kimberly asking if I could have used just a black piece of cardstock as the background, and I definitely could have. You have to make that decision whether you wanted to go with a full sheet or not. I am going to just give you a little bit of a hint, and I'll try to take pictures when I do the final. You can actually see the background here a little bit. So if you do it and you decide that you don't need, you're dry fitting things together and you're saying, nope, I didn't actually need to have that be there, then that's great. You can use just a black piece or a solid piece of cardstock. I thought about that, and then I decided to go ahead and use a piece of designer paper because I liked a little bit of texture coming through. But you're right. I'll hold the layout up in just a second, and you will be able to see that that texture does come through just a little bit. So I'm getting my photos or my mats put on here. The top of my mats is coming in at about 4 inches, which is still giving me plenty of space to have some nice separation between the photos. So you can see some of that color coming through, that background. Okay, so there we go. Now it's time to put my photos on. And I have one photo where Cody is definitely looking off to the side. So this is this photo, and I want to make sure it is on the right side of my layout. So he's looking more into the layout rather than having it over here where he'd be looking off to the side, even though he is technically looking off towards my husband. I think he just, oh man, he giggled so much. I will tell you real quick before we go too much further. I see some comments about wanting to play with their young children, their grandkids, teach them the game. If you go on to Amazon and you find these card holders, it's great for Uno because obviously the games where the kids really load up on cards, it can really be hard for them to hold them. But these little things worked great for him to be able to hold, to sort his cards and to see what he had, for us to see what he had so that we can make sure that he's not, let's see here. I think this is the order in which I'm going to do the photos on here. Cody got those were a stocking stuffer this Christmas for him, the little card holders. Kind of a last minute when we'd played a round of Uno with my parents, and it was very apparent that Cody was struggling to hold the cards. And so, or not my parents came to visit more recently. It was at Christmas. We played with all the kids, my 2 older kids. Get these put in place, and then I will go ahead and add those diagonal strips. So here we go, the layout starting to come together. And then we will go ahead and add in those diagonal pieces. The diagonal pieces do come under the border up here at the top, on the top edges. So that will definitely be something that you will want to, if you have your, if you put your adhesive down, you still need to slide it under, multi-purpose tool to the rescue. Just come in, lift up that adhesive a little bit. I'm going to go ahead, put some repo adhesive on here. I think I'll get adhesive on all of the pieces. Probably need to focus that adhesive on these diagonal pieces a little more to the middle because we will be cutting off anything that hangs over the edge. So here is one of those warm pieces, and I'm going to tuck it under there. Just kind of play with it a little bit. Repo adhesive or any adhesive can be sometimes a little unforgiving on your photos, especially these are photos I printed at home. So it does seem to be a little less forgiving on those inkjet, those types of photos. So we're just going to go ahead, lay those on there. I'm checking to see where I came across. I crossed over at 5.5 inches from the top, so that's good. And I can do the same thing here. Like I just started just below 10 inches is where I started that piece. So you can kind of, if you're using your 13 by 13 ruler or mat, you can kind of come in here and do that. I see Belinda talking about making the Mexican train. The dominoes. We do play dominoes. The problem we run into is I think our domino set is messed up. So I actually need to either go in there. Oh, thanks. Somebody's commenting. My pieces are wrong. Thanks for catching that. So we'll come in here and switch those around. Our Mexican train set our domino set is messed up. It got dumped and I don't know, it's a hot mess. So I need to come in and get that fixed so that we can play dominoes again. Because I do think Cody I think he's getting to the point where he could play dominoes and not be completely frustrated by it. I do like playing dominoes. Okay, so there we go. I've got my warm pieces on my cool tone cardstock, my cool pieces on my warm tone cardstock. So now what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and lift this up off of my cutting mat. And I I can either come in with a pair of scissors or I can come in with my trimmer and cut these off the excess. I will use my trimmer because I've got some nice straight edges still that I can use. On the opposite side. The other thing I'm going to need to do is I have to come in with my, oh goodness, the stickers. And I need to add those numbers to my Uno cards. I used black and white sans serif ABCs, largely because it worked fine. And also because I have a lot of those numbers. I have bought several packs of the stickers, but I have a tendency to really go more quickly through the letters themselves rather than the numbers. So let me grab those. I should have had those out already. So what I did is I actually used black as a shadow and then I used the white on top. The black, actually, I think on the Uno cards, these are the deck that I have, the black outline goes all the way around the numbers, but I didn't want to necessarily do that. So if I go in, and I am not going to use the number 2 or 0 because those are numbers that I use a lot in my layouts. So I'm going to just look here. I mean, you can see I don't have many zeros left. I've used a lot of 2s. I apparently am not using many 1s. So I can do a 1 on one of these. So I'll start with the black. We'll put the shadow down first, and it just goes in the corner. And I'll come over and grab a white 1. And it just layers on, giving yourself that sense of shadow. And you want it to be a fairly bold shadow. So you can see here. I gave it, well, you can kind of see there. It's hard to tell. Let me do the green where you can actually see it, not that dark blue. Apparently I don't use a lot of 8s either, so we'll do an 8. I'm just looking at my numbers to see what do I not use a lot of. And so we'll put an 8. And I'll come in and grab a white 8. Getting those little middle pieces off. And I'm giving myself a nice bold shadow. So there, hopefully you can see a little bit better. See, I tried to give it as much of a shadow as I can based on those stickers. All right. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on and just continue on. I think I'm going to be okay over here that the +4, I'm going to have to figure out how to do a plus sign on here. It looks like I'm going to be able to use the hashtag. I don't use a lot of those hashtag stickers. So I'll get out my micro tip scissors and grab a plus out of one of the corners of those hashtags for my +4. I'm not sure. I'm probably going to have to go ahead and use, I don't know if I have to put a shadow on there because it's already on black. So I'm not sure about that. I'll mess around with it a little bit. I do need to think a little bit about what I'm going to do for a title. I have the ability to come in here maybe at the top. I don't even know what the title is going to be. I should have had that all thought out. I'll try to think about that and figure that out. So I see a couple questions. Yes, I have the sans serif stickers. Those are what I'm using for this. These are the sans serif ABCs. So they've been around for a while for Creative Memories. They're still available on the website. My sticker holders, I have just some of the old deco sticker file folders that I've been using for a long time to keep my stickers organized. So that's worked out really well for me to be able to keep the different stickers organized. So I'm going to, I think, leave you guys right there for now. I may add a little bit more detail. I do feel like I need a title somewhere. It'll probably just be something lame like Uno Fun or something like that, or like something. And I'll figure that out. I'll get that on there. So, but that is going to be the layout for today. You can see that pulling in the same vibe as his big brother's layout, the Uno layout, but it is a little bit different. Being able to pull in the horizontal. You can see with Kevin's layout, I had vertical photos. It was just him, but this one, it was just so much fun with taking, I had my phone down on the actual table to get that view kind of where those cards were up. So if you're curious, if you do want to do something like that with your kids or grandkids, get that photo, the phone down a little bit. Then you really get their heads nice and close to the cards themselves, and it's really just a fun effect there. So, all right, let's see here. I am trying to switch over. There we go. I was like, I'm pressing the button to switch my camera back, but it's not working because I wasn't in the right spot. So I do appreciate you guys tuning in for this. I'll have just probably a couple little things. Like I said, I'll add a title on there, and it'll probably just be across the top and that torn area. I think I could come in with something else to give a little bit more embellishment area. So that'll be fun to do, to figure that out. And I mentioned when we first got started, I think before I actually hit record on what will ultimately end up on YouTube, talking about what's coming up this week. The virtual crop is this Friday. The secret box gets opened. If you have not ordered your secret box, they will be available until Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It's a really, really pretty box. If you are interested in knowing more about it, you can send me a message. So I think it's probably one of my favorite boxes. It's also going to be a preview Friday. This Friday we will have, I believe, I'm almost positive. Yes, there's new product next week. So I will have all those details. I will be sharing those on my Facebook page on Friday. So virtual crop, blah, blah, blah. Yes. Okay. So for next week, I am not 100% sure I'm going to have a Scrapbook Live next week. I am doing my big February retreat starts next Thursday. So it depends on how much prep work I'm able to get done between now and then. I have a nice long to-do list I need to work my way through. And so I'm hoping to be able to get a good chunk of it done and be able to do Scrapbook Live on Wednesday morning. But I do have a pretty busy week leading up to the event itself. So that will be, I'll know, it'll post onto my Facebook page if we're going to do a Scrapbook Live next week. But I definitely should be the following week that I think that we will have Scrapbook Live. Or if we do it next week, we may not do it the week. I may not be ready. I may not be recovered after the event. It usually takes a couple days, right? After all that cooking and schlepping all my stuff around and so forth, I usually need a couple days to lay low and kind of recover from that. But it's going to be a very fun weekend, and so I'm looking forward to seeing all my little people in person. So I don't think I have much else to share with you. Oh, what's the fun thing coming up for advisors is we are going to be getting our full peek at the National Scrapbook Day stuff tomorrow evening from Creative Memories. They've revealed some elements to us. So we kind of know the overall theme, we know the colors, we know that kind of stuff, but we're going to get a full, be able to know, what does everything look like. So you may start to see some of that trickle out. I'll have some to share maybe later tomorrow night or Friday. And so that's going to be some fun details coming up. And Maureen brings up the great thing I almost forgot is Power Hour is next week on the 13th. So Tess and I have joked, bring your wine, bring your chocolate, whatever you want to do, because it's on the 13th, but we can celebrate the Valentine's Day vibe or whatnot. So I have no idea what the layout's going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be able to dip into a Valentine's Day theme. We will see. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining me. If you came in late and you didn't get to see the beginning, this will go up onto YouTube. The handout does have the hashtag if you are able to create a layout that based on this, go ahead and share it into the scrapbooking with Meggan. You can use that hashtag. You can share it wherever else you want to. Just a fun layout to put together. So Yes, February 13th is Galentine's. That's what Jan is saying. I don't know. Is that like an official thing, or is that just what we should just refer to it? Galentine's. That works great. I'm so excited to spend Galentine's with some of my favorite gals, my scrappy gals, and that'll be a lot of fun on Tuesday next week. So I will see you all soon. So thanks for joining me. Have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully it's a fun scrappy weekend. All right. See you soon.